Hello, my name is Stephen Minnis, and it is a pleasure to be participating in this global colloquium of early career environmental law experts. I'd like to acknowledge the organisers of this terrific event. Our theme today, the legal tools for sustainable futures in the Anthropocene, is very relevant to what I've described as the ocean's climate nexus. And by that I mean the linkages between the climate system, and particularly climate change, and the condition of our oceans. These linkages are known to include the link between greenhouse gas emissions and the process of ocean acidification, the ways in which marine biodiversity depletion reduces climate change resilience, but also the function of the oceans as an important carbon sink. Arising out of these acknowledged physical linkages is an important legal issue, which is how do we design legal mechanisms and instruments that jointly respond to both the challenge of climate change and the challenge of protecting our oceans. It goes without saying that there are unintended legal consequences leading from one domain to the other. And we see sea level rise caused by climate change, potentially impacting on the baselines from which zones are calculated under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. The challenge we have is to go beyond such consequences and take a proactive approach to designing instruments dealing with both domains. Now, the linkages between climate change and the condition of the oceans have been recognized in a number of United Nations instruments. These include the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the Rio +20 Future We Want outcome, and indeed the Addis Ababa Action Agenda. Last year's Paris Agreement, the beginning of that document notes the importance of ensuring the integrity of all ecosystems, including oceans, when taking action to address climate change. Now, this inclusion of the oceans in the climate agreement is a milestone and indeed has already been cited, for example, in current negotiations on the protection of areas of the sea beyond national jurisdiction. So, taking legal action forward through the United Nations system. There are a number of initiatives currently underway and proposals seeking to bolster global collective action, simultaneously addressing both climate change and the condition of the oceans. There is no single negotiating track or international organization capable of providing a comprehensive solution, but two legal frameworks are particularly important. One, the United Nations Convention on Climate Change, and the other, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. So, to mention very briefly three areas of opportunity for further cooperation. First of all, blue carbon, the phrase which refers to initiatives to bolster the ability of marine and coastal zones to serve as carbon sinks. There are a number of initiatives currently underway, with IUCN an important contributor in these. And indeed, at the Paris conference last year, a new international partnership on blue carbon was announced with the participation of IUCN to address, moving to another area, to address the greenhouse gas emissions arising from shipping. There are ongoing negotiations underway under the International Maritime Organization. And indeed, at the time of this recording, a meeting is underway in London, which is considering just that. And finally, to take perhaps the most ambitious undertaking, the UN General Assembly process to design an internationally legally binding instrument for the protection of biodiversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction. Climate change is an important consideration in that process too. So, in each of these processes, IUCN has been and is continuing to be an important contributor. As lawyers, one of our roles is to assist in the development of innovative legal tools to address these shared challenges. As we see in the Sustainable Development Goals, climate change and the condition of the oceans are important and overlapping challenges. I hope that together we can continue to address them in creative ways, and I would like to thank you for this opportunity and wish you all the best in your upcoming discussions.